Welcome to the Essentially You podcast, Elena Brower. Welcome back. It has been a minute, girl, since you have been on the show. And I love you so, so much. And definitely well before the pandemic. And now we're almost kind of on the other side a little bit. And you have been one of my go-to mentors and just inspiring presence around creating so much ease and grace in our life, being more intentional and just really operating from a place of everything is happening for me, not to me. So, Lena, honey, can you just share with us a little bit about, your journey in really discovering, being present, really honoring your boundaries, honoring what feels right for you? Because so often I know that we can really struggle with that, especially during the pandemic and after the pandemic. I know so many of us are stressed to the gills, we're burned out, and we're just trying to find our way again.
Yeah. I feel like there are sort of many streams of possibility now. The whole 18 months, however long it's been, has shown us that we were in a big fat rat race, and it was a lot of movement. It was a lot of travel. It was a lot of activity. It was a lot of busyness. And I feel so strongly now that none of that really actually needs to play a role in my success or in my family. I don't think when I look back that I missed anything of my child's growing up. I feel like we all handled all that travel very well. He came with me a lot. He stayed home a bit. He was well cared for by his daddy and our Anna, who took care of him until we left New York. But I do feel really thankful to be home now and to be with him and to be, making his meals and ordering some fast food for him when he feels like it, and just being present for hikes and basketball and small road trips, things that we were missing, the little liminal spaces together. We eat dinner together literally every night. That wasn't actually happening in New York, and it wasn't happening before the pandemic. So there were lots of blessings for my family. And I do feel that it's time now to design a life that has a lot more ease in it, more rest, more quality care, attention, not just for other people, but also for ourselves. And it feels really true in my body.
Talk to me about, so just a little bit of a background for you, Elena. How long did you live in New York City?
Well, I grew up in Long Island, which is a suburb of New York City. I went to college upstate New York in Ithaca. And then I lived in New York from 92 when I graduated from Cornell until 96 or 7. And then I went to live in Italy for 2 years and was basically just back and forth all the time, long stretches of time there and a few weeks home, and then long stretches of time there. I came home. I spent maybe from 98 until 2020 as a resident of New York City in various different neighborhoods, pretty much lived almost in every neighborhood. And what I can say is I didn't think I would ever leave. I love the energy of the city so much, but I'm actually really feeling very comfortable having done it and having left now.
And that's what I wanted to just really speak into is like, being in that energy. I know if anyone's ever been in New York, that energy is unbeatable. Like you feel it, it permeates through you. And then to make a major shift to a different town, a town definitely a lot more quiet than New York City, for sure. And just really asking, I wanted to speak into kind of what that felt like for you, and really, coming on the other side of this pandemic and kind of just the craziness and kind of analyzing the busyness that we all had, all the travel that we were all doing. Many of us were traveling, I'm sure people listening too. And then, kind of finding this kind of new pace, this new, these new rituals, and really listening to your body. What does it feel like to listen to that?
Yeah, it's scary at first, and it becomes a practice in itself. Just like yoga, just like anything, meditation, just like writing practice, a painting practice, whatever you are practicing that you want to incorporate into your life. Guess what? I had to practice being comfortable with total silence. Weirdly, it didn't take super long. I thought it would, but it turns out that I think I exhausted the energy of New York. And I think now to be here, I'm much more intuitive. I feel much more capable of serving my family, much more at ease with myself. I'm way more in tune with nature. I'm gardening, growing our own greens and herbs. I have outdoor time every single day instead of doing hill sprints or, high intensity intervals around the reservoir. I'm doing hill sprints in the forest. It's just a totally different lifestyle, and it definitely took some time getting used to. And then you pile on top of that the nervousness that I felt of the pandemic in general. And now there are so many other reasons to, both totally celebrate and totally be on my watch. Like I don't know how I feel about any of the surrounding conversation regarding moving forward from this pandemic. I don't know how I feel about the origin of it or the solution for it. I don't know how I feel about any of that. So I don't really talk about that too much, but it does play a role in my willingness to be quite quiet and keep to myself. And, I put my work out there still. I still have a beautiful monthly platform called the Mentorship that I really put all my heart and soul into. I'm focusing on painting. I'm focusing on taking care of my doTERRA team. I don't have other things anymore like I used to.
I love it. Now, I know so many women are listening and they probably have a lot going on and they're probably trying to figure out how to juggle it all and maybe trying to figure out how to create more daily ease, and really maintain, those that kind of just an interconnectedness, maybe, establishing boundaries, really kind of resetting the system. Talk to me about some of what have been over the years, some of your best current practices. Like, for instance, I mean, clearly you are a phenomenal yogi. You're able to be so present in that. You educate thousands of women around the world doing yoga. You do this with meditations as well. And then you've got one of the most beautiful, beautiful books I've ever seen, Practice You, huge bestseller. So many women, so many people really resonating with that. In creating a lot of these opportunities for people to really become more present and to reduce stress, because that's going to happen, right? That's just going to happen. What was the intention and what have you learned in the curating of these beautiful tools?
I think what I want most are the things that I create. So I wanted a journal after my mom died and I created Practice You. And then I spoke to my publisher and he was like, okay, so let's create something that we can use to take the practices forward, for the people that enjoyed Practice You, that would like more from you. So I created Being You. It's a little more refined. It's a little more, grown up, doing super well. And also both are being used in yoga teacher trainings, in team building activities, in retreats. They're being used a lot. There's a lot of really beautiful space in these books to write for yourself, to create for yourself, to map what that ease might look like over the course of a day, a week, a year. And so that's what I sort of teach. I teach that in my courses. I teach that in my mentorship. How do we cultivate a feeling of ease when we have kids, when we're trying to run a business or several small businesses, when we're trying to be creative in our relationships, when we're trying to be great partners? How do we create more ease? And I feel strongly that the way to do it is to start first by getting closer to ourselves, like to really learn what nourishes me, what makes me feel full, what makes me feel empty, what makes me feel connected to my family, partner, fill in the blank. And that's what a really good journal prompt will do. It'll bring you closer to understanding that about yourself so that you can identify in your schedule, like, oh, I see, I have this thing on my schedule that I really don't enjoy. I don't look forward to it. It actually gives me a feeling of dread. I'm going to take it off. More ease. Stuff like that is the optimal result from a good journaling practice. And that's kind of the overarching that I aim to do. The overarching sort of result that I aim to achieve is, how do we know ourselves super well so that we can serve up a dose of ease every single day, a feeling of restfulness, yet being present, yet being efficient. How do we do that? And these are the things that I sort of focus on in my teaching.
I'd love to dive in because I've used the Practice You journal. And honestly, girl, until I was pulling up everything for this episode, I had no idea that you had a new book out called Being You. And what I love, and I am a big, big fan of journaling. I love it so, so much. And the reason why I've always loved Practice You is you're absolutely right. There was so much space to really get creative. There was so much space to really kind of find out who you are. One of the things I've learned over the years is that oftentimes women don't even necessarily know what they love, what brings them joy. And your Practice You journal really, you kind of encompasses that opportunity to really discover I know you said that Being You is a more refined version, but is it more kind of a journal focused on rediscovering or discovering who you are?
Yeah, it still has that element of it. I feel like I just got much more practiced in my painting, and the prompts were initially, it was interesting. Initially, the book was intended for teenagers. I was going to serve the young adults with a way to get to know themselves a little bit better. And when the artwork started to calm down and we started to look at everything all together, it was just like, okay, this is actually not for teenagers. It's for everyone. There's one page where the prompt is, this is when I gave myself peace. This is when I took it away. This is when I let someone else take it away. Your peace belongs to you and you alone. And it's sort of like, wow, this interesting, I had no idea that that's what I did to myself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then we go into self-compassion. We have a writing practice with a bunch of words that you can use to prompt anything that you have to write: loyalty, caring, loving, listening, spontaneity, choosing myself. What attributes am I choosing to cultivate within myself? As you can feel, it was intended for teenagers. As the mom of a teenager, it really meant a lot to me to have this. And then I realized, no, it's for everybody. When we fully give our attention, we experience both power and rest. What would you write there? You know what I mean? These are the kinds of prompts that we're looking at in this book.
That's what I love so much. Oh, those prompts are so powerful. And it can get a little gritty too. Absolutely. Well, I was thinking about how often our peace is stolen. Girl, the second you get into your inbox, for some women, for some people, like those, I guess, having those boundaries. Like, I think for some of us, probably our peace is stripped, and that's not really, you just get so caught up in the stuff, in the obligations, in the, I need to go do all these things, that we sometimes just get so disconnected.
Yes. There's an interesting way that I look at my inbox, which I think might be helpful.
Mm-hmm. You don't look at it? No, I'm just kidding.
No. That's funny. It's almost like I open it up in the morning and I do it's kind of, there's a little bit of a guardian, like a gatekeeper moment where I go through and I just delete anything that is not belonging to me personally, or even the sort of random solicitations. Delete. And I usually can delete 40 to 50 things. Then I go into, okay, this is my place now. This is what I have to tend to first. This is second. This is third. It's very easy to prioritize. I think that's one of the things that we can look at on a more pragmatic level. How do you prioritize that hour that you spend with your inbox? How do you optimize well?
That is powerful. I love deleting. I need to use that delete button more, what's the word I'm looking for? Robustly or more
Yes.
frequently.
Fearlessly.
Fearlessly. Thank you so much. I was like, where's that word? What am I looking for here? Speaking into kind of, deleting what isn't serving, that can show up in so many ways in our life and really even the relationships that we have, the conversations that we have. Love to hear some of your best practices. What I love so much about you, Elena, is that you are always so intentional in your conversations, intentional in who you're talking to. And I have a feeling that there's a lot of people who you've kind of like are like, I've set my boundary here. And so can you talk to me about some best practices for communicating with family, the people you can't always break up with, work people, colleagues, especially in curating more space and also, really curating beautiful relationships, what I think we could use so much of right now. How has that worked? Like, how have you created best practices for this?
When I have somebody in my life with whom I don't want to share myself or a whole lot of, let's say, time or energy, I simply let go. I let go. I don't feel like I need to explain myself. I don't feel like I need to, provide an excuse or some kind of explanation. I simply let go. It's been done to me for sure, where somebody just ceases communication. And there are times when I do sort of want to know, like, hey, what happened? Is there anything that I could have done better? Sometimes that's a question for myself or for the other person. Most of the time, I just realize, life is short. I'm 50 years old. What have I got? 50 more years, 40 more years. And I just want to really carefully, as you said, I want to be intentional about selecting the people to whom I give my love and my time. And if somebody asks you for an explanation, you can say, there are no hard feelings here. It is now a time for me to focus on myself and my family.
Love that. Love that. That's an easy, just to the point, short, matter of factly, this is how I'm operating moving forward. Okay. Another question I have, because I know, one of the things that you said, and I think really people can resonate with this is that, going from busy New York City, which I love New York City. I clearly never lived there, but every time I go there, I just love it. But
Mm.
going from that energy, and I remember visiting you, and I got to visit you a couple times. I remember we would be up. Oh, it was so good. We were making food, and then one minute we were going downstairs to the market, and it's just the flow in which you had it, like you navigated New York, like just like a beautiful yoga goddess, that you are, obviously. And I was like, oh, I just loved the way in which, like, one of the things I loved about you was how we could be in such a busy, beautiful, high energy place. And you could have such just mellow, relaxed energy. It was this beautiful, just this difference that I was like, oh my gosh, you can really be all these things living in this beautiful big city. But one of the things that you mentioned was when you moved to the quieter place. I'm not going to say where it is. I'm not trying to share where you live, girl. But when you lived in the quieter place, there was a struggle there. And I have a feeling that a lot of women, as they begin their yoga practice or their meditation practice or their journaling practice, or even just the self-care piece, that there is resistance and struggle. I know for me in the beginning, there very much was. And yes, is there a place that you have found a little bit easier to get started, especially if we're somebody who just has been having so much resistance?
I think the main thing you want to realize is that your best ally is yourself, and to begin to cultivate that understanding in a very real, intentional, practical way through the actions that you take over the course of any given day. This is a real gift you give to yourself. And no, it's not easy to go from being surrounded by people all the time or surrounded by activity all the time to really just focusing on yourself. I'm not saying selfishly, I'm saying focus on yourself so that you can be of service in whatever way your service arises. But if you can do that, you start to see there is a depth and a richness to the way in which you can care for yourself. I'm not saying bubble bath. I'm saying look carefully at how you spend your time, look carefully at how you spend your money, look carefully at the books you read, if you watch shows, the shows you watch, like what are you taking in? What are the inputs? This is a conversation I'll never, ever, ever stop having. Because once you can look at that and really design for yourself how you are with yourself, what you are bringing into your space, anything is possible.
Ooh, love that. And ooh, how you spend your money, what you're watching, what you're reading, how you spend your time, who you're spending your time with. All
Yes.
of this is shifting energy. All of this is defining who you are and bringing up emotions. What kind of emotions are you looking to experience? That is powerful because so often self-care is going to shopping for something or doing the bubble baths or getting a manicure or, there's a number of things it can be, but just really getting intentional. When, Elena, honey, did you start to really look at these things for yourself?
I mean, it's been 20 years of trying, but really in earnest, I would say in the last 3 years, 3 to 5 years since I got sober, which was almost 7 years ago. My God.
Yeah, I was going to say when we interviewed last time, 2 years ago, it had been 5 years.
It's an interesting time because I don't feel like it's done. I feel like it's still a work in progress. So, I think I'm always going to be working on getting to know myself better, taking really, really good care of myself and what I see and read and listen to and welcome into my life, and being very selective about the people, the jobs, the ways in which I place my attention.
You have a lot of tools for us. I know that a lot of women are listening and would love more. And I've got some quick fire questions I have for you that I just curated. So I'm really excited. You're going to be the first person, Elaine, honey, to do the questions.
I love rapid fire. Love.
But I wanted to just highlight that your Practice You podcast and how beautiful it is. Can you share a little bit about the intention of creating that podcast? And I really want people to go and check it out and kind of that they get a lot more of this curation there as well. But can you speak into it a little bit for me?
This is a podcast where I interview people who are either very, very close to me, who have influenced me, or who are making a difference in the world. It is all about transitions. And I have been very deliberate about the people whom I welcome on there. I do get now solicitations very often. It's very, very rare that I'll take somebody who emails me to come on the podcast. It really is me reaching out and asking people to come on and share what they know. We just reached 1 million unique downloads, which in the world of sort of podcasts it seems like it's quite a big accomplishment. And I'm really excited to say that along these lines, I don't know if I'm going to continue it now and maybe even get sponsorship. Like I haven't even considered that yet in all this time. Or do I simply call it and have the content living in the world? I just don't know. I just don't know what the next steps are, but I absolutely love this project, and time will tell what the right thing for me is. And I take that very seriously, that choice.
I thank you so much for sharing, and congratulations on the 1 million unique downloads, girl. I love it so much. And, I mean, it's phenomenal. So, if you continue it, I know so many people would appreciate it, but I hear you. There's a lot of beautiful passion projects out there that you are pursuing. So I get there's only so much room to do so many.
But it's a beautiful project. And the fact that it's about transitions has truly moved me over the course of this year and a half or so. I've shifted my focus, and I'm now featuring a lot of different kinds of folks. And I realized that I wasn't. And I think that's probably the most important part of the podcast right now.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear you there. All right. Well, let's do the rapid fire. I'm so excited. Ooh,
yay.
Okay. All right. Here, my dear. First question. There is 5 of them. What is one thing you are deeply grateful for right now?
Oh, the relationship I have with my child.
Mm.
Oh
I
my
love that
gosh.
so much.
Oh my gosh. It is a whole new level. He teaches me piano. I have a piano teacher, but he's the one who comes to me and says, all right, mom, let's go, let's practice. And we do duets and he helps me understand how to move my hands. It's unbelievable.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm just
I
thinking of
know.
Kingston right now. Okay, what was something you've done that made you feel extremely happy in the last week? So in the last 7 days.
Support friends in their choices around the current situation.
Love that.
That's the best thing I can say.
Okay, sounds
I don't
good.
want to say more. I feel very good that I'm supporting people who are making hard choices about how to handle their health.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
What book has recently had a big impact on you and why?
2 books. The
Okay.
Parable of the Sower, I just finished by Octavia Butler. Post-apocalyptic California, just insane. Beautiful book. Beautiful
Mm-mm.
beyond Earthseed. And then the second book is called Come of Age by Stephen Jenkinson. And the subtitle is A Case for Elderhood in Times of Trouble.
Mm. So powerful. And it has just more so in the second book in particular, just an understanding of that transition or
Oh, it's Stephen Jenkinson is a very rich teacher and writer and wisdom keeper. And the ways in which he looks at what it means to, first of all, realize that we have completely eliminated the concept of elders from our society. We've put all the older people, we don't even call them elders anymore. We've put all the older people in separate locations instead of welcoming them into our spaces so that we can learn from them. And like I said, we've ceased calling them elders. And it's time to get back to deep, abiding respect for the elders, to really learn from them, to understand what they know. We have walked away. We have walked away in a big way. And then in reading this, I'm realizing that I am actually responsible for becoming an elder, one of the elders that I wish to see and learn from. So that's a whole world of responsibility, I feel, and honor. And I take that seriously as well.
I think especially in this country for women too, once we get past menopause or we get into menopause, we're just not useful to society. I think
No,
we have a little bit more appreciation for elderly men than we do for elderly women. I'm really hoping that we get to shift that very soon.
that's my work.
Mhm.
That's going to be my work as we get older. I want to make sure that elder women are deeply respected, cared for, seen, heard, and that we learn from them.
I love that so, so much.
Yeah. And we're not afraid to get older, and we're not afraid to age, how we look and how we feel. Aging is a gift. We have never really understood that or realized that getting older is actually, something new for our society in general. Like we used to die in our 50s, 40s, 50s, and now we live so long. And how do we really see the opportunity of that instead of the liability?
Right. Yeah, we have to shift the way that we see that entirely.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. Number 4, knowing what you know now, which I know is a lot. What advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Don't you dare give that body away to just anyone. That's what I would say to my 18-year-old self. And for God's sakes, call your mother and remember how lucky you are to have her.
And the
Yeah.
last one, what's one thing about you that surprises people? What is something they don't know?
Oh my God, this is so weird. I think I've said this only once before in a similar situation in an interview, rapid fire. But the one thing that immediately comes to my mind is that I really find myself often cleaning public bathrooms. I don't like clean the toilet, but I will wipe down a sink. I will, pick up if there's like paper towels on the floor. I don't know why. My mother must have taught me this, but to leave spaces cleaner than when you found them is something that is a slight obsessive compulsive action in me. I know it's so strange, but if you go into the bathroom after me, you're going to find it very clean.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's a service, girl. You're serving.
It's so weird.
I love it, but
So
definitely
weird.
never in a
Come
million
on.
years. But I guess that was that answer.
I mean, there are so many other weird things,
Yes.
but that's definitely one of them.
Hmm.
I would say the other weird thing is that I'm learning how to handle a firearm safely, and taking long hours of training to learn this, because I was always so afraid of them. And I think it's important in these times, especially after reading Parable of the Sower, that the protectors are well versed in how to handle a firearm, not just the destroyers.
That is a second thing I think people would not have known. That is
No,
absolutely true.
no.
Elena, one, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this first rapid fire. I hope you enjoyed the questions. And I know one of the things you had mentioned earlier is your mentorship program. And I'd love for you to connect to that. One, we want to go to the Practice You podcast. If you're being called to journal, Being You is the new one that's released in 2021. But I know that I have a personal link for the mentorship. So I wanted to just make sure we mentioned it.
Thank you for that. The mentorship is very close to my heart, and it's a way for you, if you're listening, it's a way for you to work closely and learn with me. So whatever I learn goes into that portal, and we learn together live every month, twice. So many beautiful, over 100 video teachings in there, short, digestible, relevant, really beautiful.
Thank you so much, honey. And we can find you on
welcome.
Instagram at Elena Brower. And website is, do you want to practice you and ElenaBrower.com? I will be sharing both of them, but I take it Elena Brower has everything in it.
It does. Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you so much, my love, for jumping on today.
You.
I love you.
I love you. I love you so much. Thank you.